If you're super busy and can't lose weight, here are the 5 fixes that our clients use to drop anywhere from 5 to 49 kilos without doing 2-hour workouts. By the way, I'm Alex, I own AG Coaching, and we've helped over 3,200 Aussies do this. Kicking off with mistake number 1, trying to cut out all social events. If you're super busy and you can't lose weight, you probably eat out quite a bit already and just grab stuff on the go. Now, the common advice here is to completely stop doing that and go to completely meal prep meals only the entire time. But the problem here is you're trying to fix a habit that you've probably been doing for many, many years, maybe even a decade. Now, if you've ever tried to completely ditch a habit before, you know that it's extremely hard to do, and it's not gonna be as simple as that, and you're not gonna be able to do it from day one. So what I highly recommend doing, and this is what we do with all our clients, is just start by cutting it back first. So let's say you eat out 5 times a week. Can we drop that to 4? Or can we drop that to 3? The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make smart choices when we are eating out and grabbing stuff on the go. And when I say smart choices, I mean we wanna go for the lower calorie, higher protein, and ideally higher volume options at wherever you're going to. Now, if you are just grabbing stuff on the go, it is also ideal to go to places where you can work out, or they do tell you the calories, because that way you can actually make it fit into your daily calories, and then your progress doesn't slow down at all. So places like Subway, Nando's, GYG, even Grilled, they all have the calories and the macros, so you can figure out how much protein you're getting for what meal on their website. And to make it easier, I've got a free takeout guide. I'll just link it in the description for you. It's got the lowest calorie and highest protein foods of all the common places in Australia. Now, if you go to lots of work functions, what we want to do on those days where you know you're probably going to be having a bit more calories, maybe you like to have a drink or 2 as well. First, we're going to go for the lowest calorie drink options. So if you have 2 or 3 vodka seltzers, for example, you're only looking at about 210 calories, which is completely different to say 3 cocktails, which could easily rack up 900 calories. Then the other thing you can do on that day, especially if you're going to somewhere where you have no idea what the calories are gonna be, you can calorie bank a little bit for that day. So I actually just got a message from one of my clients, Sam, which he did this last night. It's a perfect example. Now, this is a little bit of an extreme calorie bank, but hopefully this gives you an example. So he basically said, pop it on the screen. Went out for dinner last night, saved myself 1,800 calories. Now, we usually recommend trying to save anywhere from like 800 to 1,000 calories if you can, because that way you can make a semi-smart food choice. You could have a drink or 2 if you want, and you're probably gonna be sweet. You're probably gonna be within that calorie range. So what Sam basically did is he had 2 beers, which I know for him, there would have been low calorie ones, and well, the lowest calorie ones you can, 3 chicken wings, and then just steak, veg, and potato bake, which is not too bad, especially if he didn't smother the steak in sauce and butter, which he probably asked for on the side. So then he basically showed me what he ate through the day, and it was just basically protein. So high protein yogurts in the morning with fruit for added volume and fiber, help keep him full. Said he had a little bit of caffeine and some Coke Zero to keep him going along the way. It's not the worst thing in the world if you're just doing this every now and then. Of course, you probably don't want to make every day look like this just so you can have a massive dinner and then just a big chicken salad for lunch. So that's like a perfect example of how to calorie bank and keep making the exact same amount of progress throughout the week without just thinking, I can't go to work events, can't do meetings because they involve calories, and I can't be social if I want to go catch up with my mates, because that's just not going to last. And even if you can do it for a few weeks, how are you going to keep the weight off after if you don't learn these things? Mistake number 2 is not planning your week. Something very common that we see with new clients is thinking they're going to have to train 5 or 6 days a week in the gym for 90 minutes to 2 hours. And of course, if you're a very busy person, maybe you're running a business, you look at your calendar and go, there's just no way I can do that, so you don't even try. And the truth is, you really only need to train ideally 3 times a week, but even if you can train twice a week, you're still going to make great progress. And those sessions could be as short as 30 minutes or 45 to 60 if you can make that fit. Now, there's 168 hours in every week. I know you've probably heard this before, but if you sleep for 56 of them, so 8 hours a night, you've still got 112 hours left. So if this is important to you, which it should be because it's going to seriously improve your long-term health and not just how you look, you can definitely fit 2 to 3 hours of those 112 in your week dedicated for training, especially when you use these simple systems. Now, the key here is, this is going to sound a bit fucking whack, but schedule these workouts, maybe even your meal prep if you want to do some meal prep and you don't want it to take forever. Schedule these into your week as if they're a doctor's appointment. This little tactic has worked with so many of my busiest clients, and then you have to stick to it and treat it like a doctor's appointment, because you wouldn't cancel on that. And if someone asks you, can you grab coffee here? Do you want to meet up here? Basically, can I have your time in that spot? You just say, sorry, I have an appointment. And I know that's going to sound a bit crazy, but if you don't put yourself first sometimes, how are you ever gonna get ahead? And it's, you know, the saying they always tell you on the plane, always put your own oxygen mask on first. That's pretty much how I look at it. Now, this is something that I used to, when I was younger, I'd laugh at and kind of shrug my shoulders, like as if you need to schedule in all of your workouts throughout the week. But as I've gotten busier, and I'm gonna show you my calendar in a sec, it is an absolute game changer. Now, disregard the messy office here, but as you can see, I just use Asana, but you can use Google Calendars, you can use a notepad, literally use whatever you want, but schedule in those workouts so they are in there. Now, when it comes to the actual workouts itself, you can make these as short as possible by doing 1 or 2 compound movements at the start of the session and then just doing a couple of supersets. The way to look at it is try to avoid looking at all the content online that's talking about optimal. This is the optimal exercise to grow your bicep. This is the optimal workout to grow your legs, because if you are not currently even training consistently 2-3+ times a week, that is step number 1. So don't worry about having the most optimal workout possible. Just make sure you train consistently at least 2-3 times a week, and make sure you just hit every muscle group once per week, which even if you're doing 2 sessions a week, you could do 2 full body sessions, or you could do an upper body and a lower body, and then you've covered every muscle group and you'll be sweet. Mistake number 3 is overcomplicated meals and trying to eat perfect. When you're super busy and you're trying to lose body fat, you just need very simple, high protein meals, ideally high volume and high fiber, so you stay full and don't feel the need to demolish 6 Krispy Kremes at the office, and low to moderate calories, or just making sure it fits within your daily calories. And the other key for these meals is just making sure that they are simple and fast to make, or at least easy to batch prep a lot of them. So for example, my morning protein oats, this has been my go-to breakfast for like a decade, I swear. Just can't go wrong. So we've got protein, oats, peanut butter, and then I'll add blueberries in here as well. So it's 4 ingredients, just cook it in water. It's high protein, nearly 40 grams. It's good carb source with a good amount of fiber. We're also getting fruits for nutrients, and then also taste and more volume, and then peanut butter for healthy fat source. So you're pretty much covering all bases there. I'm just gonna fill this with water, chuck it in the microwave for 3 to 4 minutes, and I'm gonna eat it good to go. Now, while that heats up in the microwave, you could also prep the oats as like overnight oats. So sometimes I'll just make 4 or 5 in a row, and then pretty much the whole week, or at least Monday to Thursday, Friday is sorted. These are pretty much what I call anchor meals. So if you have 2 or 3 of them throughout the day, and then you can just pop a simple no prep snack in between, which could be like a protein shake and a piece of fruit, a protein yogurt, some beef jerky, a protein bar, something like that to keep you going that doesn't require any time whatsoever. You could just eat it on the go. You can eat it at your desk while you're working, or if you're on the job site, you just eat it and you don't have to worry about, you know, prepping it or whatever. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make with this info and this tip is thinking that their diet needs to be absolutely perfect. I don't know why I keep doing this, but one of the main criticisms, and I see people saying for that, is they don't want to eat anything processed. Now, of course, you want to try and eat as much nutrient dense foods as you can, but honestly, if you're hitting 80, even 80%, 80 to 90% of your total calories through nutrient dense food, it doesn't really matter if the other 10 to 20% is some kind of processed foods or some food you really enjoy. So at the end of the day, having a paddle pop or something low calorie like a sweet treat, that will keep you on track. It will make it feel less like a normal diet, and you won't feel the need to binge and go completely YOLO on the weekend and smash 3 pizzas and 6 Krispy Kremes. And also, everything that you eat, unless you're freaking growing it in your back garden, is going to be processed to some degree. Now, what we want to try and avoid majority of the time is the ultra highly processed foods, and that is mainly because they're just packed with calories, very easy to overconsume. So things like potato chips, chocolate bars, lollies, all the good stuff is just packed with calories and easy to overconsume. But like I said, if you find the lower calorie versions, or even if you want the real thing, so you just love lollies or you love chocolate, just make it fit into your calories and have that 10 to 20% of it, and you'll be golden. Then with your other meals like lunch and dinner, something that can help a lot of our busy clients is you can kind of choose like how flexible you want to be. So for example, microwave meals, there's tons of brands and companies out there. Are they optimal? Are they the best source of protein and food? Probably not, but it is still better than going through Macca's drive-through because you're so busy at work and then smashing down a 1600 calorie large Big Mac meal. Then one step further into the optimal, you could go things like pre-cooked chicken and then make the rest of your food at home. And then of course the ideal situation is you just buy your own chicken and mince and stuff like that, cook it at home, and then you're good to go prepped a little bit in advance. But you just have these layers, and depending on where you're currently at is like where I reckon how far you should kind of pull them back, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully my oats didn't boil over. Good to go. And just like that, Gonna add the protein in here, add the blueberries on top, chuck the peanut butter on, good to go. So the next massive mistake is ignoring small habits. And the reason I'm pacing around outside here is because I wanted to show you, this is one of the little things that I do if I'm wanting to get my steps up throughout the day and I have some phone calls to take. I'll just come out here, walk around basically up and down this grass patch here while the dogs do their thing, and I'll rack my steps up pretty quickly. This again plays into the optimal trying not to worry about that, what I was talking about with training before, because a lot of clients come in and they think they should go from like 3K steps to 10K per day or they're not going to make progress. And that's another flawed way to look at it, because let's say you can just increase your daily steps by 2K per day. So let's say you're doing 3K at the moment and you just up them to 5K. That's an extra 14,000 steps per week, and it only takes about 20 minutes of walking per day to get those 2 steps. So if you are, maybe you're not allowed to pace up and down your office when you're on the phone, but if you can, then you could do that. Or before your workout, if you've got an extra 10 minutes, jump on the treadmill, walk as fast as you can. That's another 1,000 steps right there. And if you think of it like this, that same example, let's say you're doing 3K steps per day, you add an extra 2K so you get to 5, you've pretty much added 3 more days of your average daily movement to your week that you're already doing. So when you start to think of it like that, holy shit, that makes a massive difference to the amount of calories that you'll burn throughout a day and throughout a week. And then if you go a step even further and you think, you know what, imagine doing that over a 12-week period. That's a shitload of extra movement, which means you're going to burn a lot more calories and you're going to be able to lose fat a lot easier. Not really sure what the big dog's doing, but another small win that people ignore is other things like hitting PBs in the gym, how you feel in your clothes, your daily mood, just dialing in your daily routine a bit. So putting those sessions into your calendar, actually sticking to it, like you're going to feel way better. You're going to have more energy, better sleep. That's another massive win. Less stress or better stress management if you can. That's another one. There's so many little wins that come along with it. That's not just weight on the scale or how I look in the mirror. And those things will come with all those other wins as well. So don't ignore the small wins and the small habits that you're stacking up. Mistake number 5 is not tracking anything. What gets measured will generally get managed. And just disregard the messy house. We're moving soon and that's my excuse. But when it comes to tracking, again, I think a lot of busy people think that it's going to take so long, and that's why they don't want to do it. And I completely understand, because when you whip up like MyFitnessPal or any calorie tracking app and you start scanning barcodes and searching foods, and then you search chicken breast and there's 4,000 different options, and then you realize like, fuck, this is overwhelming, and then you just don't do any of it. Completely understand that. So what you want to do is keep it as simple as possible. So for your actual physical progress, I would just track your scale weight, take a weekly average, because it takes 2 seconds to weigh yourself and write it down in the morning, like literally 2 seconds, and then do that at least 3 times per week. Get the average of the week and then just compare it to the next week, the next week, the next week, and so on. This works way better than just jumping on, say, once a week, because your scale weight is always going to fluctuate, and that's due to water, sodium, the time that you ate the night before, how much movement you did today, like so many things. It's going to always fluctuate. So it's not accurate to just jump on once a week, and it can actually be quite disheartening if you have a bit of a spike the day you jump on. You think you've actually gone backwards and gained weight when really on average you've lost weight. And I see this happen with people all the time. The next form of progress to track physically is progress pics, because again, you could take them literally once a month and it's going to take you 2 seconds. Just set your phone up, self timer, or get your partner to, or whatever. Snap front, side, back, relax shot in the same kind of spot and lighting if you can, and then you can just compare them as the months go on. This is absolutely key, and I cannot tell you the amount of times that someone said, I wish I took a photo at the start. And that's why we always bombard our clients with like, take progress pics, because you will look back and be like, holy shit, I've made a lot of progress. When you see yourself every single day in the mirror, you're not going to notice, because the tiny little changes are happening as you go, and then 10 kilos down, you don't really see that much difference most of the time. Now, not only are those 2 things very simple to do and they're very fast, it's free accountability, and of course it's going to help you make the right decisions moving forward, because depending on how much weight to lose, you're more than likely going to hit a plateau at some stage, and then from there you need to make a decision if can I up those daily steps a little bit more. So if you've got to 5,000, can I get to 6,000 or 7,000, or is it easier for my schedule to just lower my calories and eat a little bit less food? And that's a personal decision, and it depends where you're currently at and what you've got time to do. But without the simple data of your weekly average weight and some progress pics, you won't know when or how to make that decision. Now, in terms of tracking your actual calories and macros, again, super simple. We're just going to track calories and protein intake. It doesn't matter about carbs and fats if they go up and down, totally fine. If you're hitting your calorie target and hitting your protein target, you're absolutely golden. You're 99% of the way there. And if you don't know what calories and protein to aim for, I'll put my free calorie calculator in the description for you as well. Just plug in your details, select your goal, and it will tell you what calories and protein to shoot for. Now with that, you want to just make a few simple meals on repeat that you enjoy. So maybe a few dinners, a few brekkie options, a few simple lunch options, and then just some simple no prep protein snacks, which I'll chuck a list on screen for you here. Eat those for as long as you can until you get seriously bored of them, and then make some small changes. When I was younger and I just had unlimited free time and no responsibilities, I used to track my macros every single day, and it almost became a game of like, what can I fit in my macros and still hit my goals? And number one, it's time consuming, and number two, it probably wasn't the best way to do it. But now as I've gotten older and I'm getting more and more responsibilities and my schedule is getting more packed and got coaches to manage and clients and a business to run and all the good stuff, I'm finding myself eating the same meals for months and months on end. And that's because they taste bomb, they're simple to make, and they hit my macros. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I don't really need to change them. And then, like I said, once you do get bored of them, just to make sure you stay on track, just make some simple swaps. And then that's when you try a new meal. You find one that you like and you just repeat that for as long as you can as well. And you can always bounce back to the old meals you've got. And then within a few months, you will have a handful of really, really high protein, high volume, ideally, and tasty meals that you enjoy. And you can just like mix them about as much as you want. And the last thing on that note is, now you've built yourself a meal plan, you can just follow it. So you just have to track those calories once for one day, or just do it in advance. So just give yourself 30 minutes once and just build a meal plan, and it's like, sweet, now you're good to go, and you follow that for as long as possible. And that way you don't have to spend 10 minutes every day or more tracking your calories separately. Now, if you've never done a calorie deficit before, aka a fat loss phase, I'd highly recommend checking out this video here, as it's gonna explain a shitload more about it.